Berlin, 1961. A city. Berlin, 1961. A city split in two. The night air over East Berlin was cold enough to sting, but Lucas Weber barely felt it. His gloved hands gripped a small, unmarked briefcase, light in weight, but heavy with consequence. Inside were microfilmed documents taken from the Stasi archives. Documents that, if delivered to the right hands in West Berlin, could expose a network of double agents operating across Europe. He wasn't a spy, not officially. Lucas had once been a simple postal courier for the Deutsche Post, but after witnessing secret police arrests and neighbors vanishing without explanation, he agreed to one task for a Western contact, one delivery, one chance, and tonight was that night. Checkpoint Charlie, a deadline that couldn't slip. The mission was simple on paper: cross from East Berlin to West Berlin at Checkpoint Charlie before dawn, and hand the briefcase to MI6 officers stationed near Friedrichstrasse. But the Berlin Wall had just gone up weeks earlier. Tensions between the Soviet Union and the West were razor tight. Soldiers stared down one another through rifle scopes. One mistake could trigger an international incident. Lucas checked his watch. 2:14 a.m. He had less than 3 hours before a scheduled Stasi sweep of his neighborhood. If they discovered the missing documents, they'd lock down every route. His breath shook, but he started moving. Every alley felt like a trap. Every silhouette could be an informant. East Berlin, once familiar, now felt like a maze of suspicion, the shadow following him. As he approached Alexanderplatz, Lucas heard steady footsteps behind him. Not close, but close enough to mirror his pace. He turned casually and caught sight of a man in a dark coat, collar raised, cap pulled low. He tried to stay calm. Maybe just another worker heading home. But when Lucas crossed the street, the man crossed too. His heart pounded. He ducked into a side street near the ruins of the Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church, still broken from World War II bombings. The cold stones towered above him like a reminder. History had teeth. The footsteps quickened. Whoever was behind him wasn't giving up. A desperate detour. Instead of heading straight to Checkpoint Charlie, Lucas veered toward the Spree River. Bridges were monitored, but there were blind spots near the old rail underpasses. As he rounded the corner, he nearly collided with a patrol of Soviet soldiers. They were checking identification papers under harsh floodlights. He backed away immediately, pulse hammering in his ears. If they stopped him and searched the briefcase,
He spotted a tram rattling toward him, the number 8 line. Without thinking, he sprinted and jumped aboard just as the doors hissed shut.
inside, the street lamps flickered across empty seats. Except one. The man in the dark coat was on the tram, and now he was staring directly at Lucas. A silent warning. The tram clattered over the tracks toward the Brandenburg Gate. The Soviet officer-guarded monument loomed ahead like a stone sentinel dividing the city. The man stood slowly and walked toward him. "Lucas Weber," he said quietly in accented German. Lucas froze. He hadn't given his real name to anyone except his MI6 contact. "I'm not here to arrest you," the man said, "but others will. You're carrying something dangerous." Lucas tightened his grip on the briefcase. "Who are you?" The man leaned in just enough for Lucas to hear. "My name doesn't matter. What matters is that the Stasi already knows you have the files. They've sealed 2 crossings. Checkpoint Charlie will be watched within the hour." "How do you know that?" The man paused. "Because the files you're carrying, they expose double agents. Some working for the Soviets, some working for the British, and both sides are afraid." A chill ran through Lucas, not from the cold, but from the truth. This wasn't just about one side winning. This was about both sides protecting themselves. Berlin Wall, a race against dawn. The tram screeched to a stop. Without waiting for the doors to fully open, Lucas bolted out onto Zimmerstrasse, just a few blocks from the border checkpoint. Searchlights swept the area. Trucks rumbled. Soldiers barked orders in Russian and German. Checkpoint Charlie was transforming into a fortress. He ducked behind sandbags, scanning the barricades. There were now machine gun nests facing the crossing. No civilian would be allowed through. He could give up, drop the case, run home, pretend none of this happened. But the names in that microfilm, politicians, diplomats, embassy workers, were people playing both sides, feeding chaos, risking war. Someone had to stop them. He took a shaky breath. There was one last option: an unfinished tunnel beneath the border. Rumored, dangerous, claustrophobic, but real. The MI6 contact had mentioned it only once. As a fallback, no sane person would try. And now it was the only path left: the tunnel under Bernauer Strasse. He sprinted through narrow back streets until he reached a boarded-up bakery near Bernauer Strasse. Behind a loose floorboard was the tunnel entrance, dark, damp, and silent. He crawled inside. Minutes felt like hours as he dragged himself through the dirt-walled passage. Water dripped from above. The air grew tighter, musty, hard to breathe. Halfway through, he heard a rumble. Footsteps, multiple, echoing. Someone else had entered the tunnel. He crawled faster, boots slipping on mud. The briefcase scraped against stone. His lungs burned. Then, a beam of flashlight behind him. Voices shouting. The Stasi had found the tunnel. West Berlin. The final handoff. Just as panic threatened to break him, Lucas saw a sliver of light ahead. A wooden hatch. He slammed his shoulder into it, pushing until it burst upward. He emerged into a dim basement beneath a shop in West Berlin. The smell of roasted coffee lingered above. The cafe on the street level had opened early. Waiting in the basement were two men in trench coats, one holding a British passport. MI6. "You made it," one whispered. Lucas handed over the briefcase, hands trembling. "You need to understand," he said breathlessly. "Those documents, they don't just expose Soviet agents. They expose yours, too." The officer's eyes tightened, not with surprise, but with confirmation. They already knew, and they were terrified someone else might learn. A truth too dangerous. One of the officers stepped forward. "Mr. Weber, what you carried tonight may prevent a war, but it may also embarrass governments on both sides. History won't record your name. Officially, this never happened." Lucas nodded. He hadn't done it for glory. He'd done it because someone had to deliver the truth, even if the world never thanked him. Outside, the bells of Kaiser Wilhelm Memorial Church chimed faintly through the morning fog. 5 a.m. The night was over. The Courier had succeeded. The double agents would soon be unmasked. And somewhere in the shadows of Berlin, east and west, powerful people were panicking, because one delivery had changed everything. Epilogue. A whisper in the archives. Decades later, when Cold War files were declassified in London and Berlin, historians noticed a curious gap. A missing night, a missing briefcase, a missing list of double agents. No one ever found proof. But in both archives, a handwritten note appeared. One courier, one night. The balance shifted. And somewhere, in a quiet corner of Berlin, an old man walked past Checkpoint Charlie, knowing he had once carried the weight of the world in his hands, without firing a single shot. Hi friends, let's call this an end for today. If you found this important, subscribe for part 2.